And now we are live. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Abel Perez.
Jose Rodriguez.
Rohi Zachariah.
And this is the Weekly Jargon. We want to thank you guys for joining us another beautiful week on Valentine's Day. You gentlemen ready for that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, happy Valentine's to you.
Yeah, happy Valentine's. Today, we're sitting around. We're going to revert to the jar to answer some great questions, right? But one thing, if you want to sit yourself back at your high school graduation and the valedictorian saying, we've made it. We've gotten to this point. We will now go and conquer the world. We are prepared for this. We are the best class ever. And you hear it every single graduating class, but then the brute reality of life seems to hit you pretty hard. And it's decision after decision to be made. What do you do? Do we pursue a life in college? Do we take advantage of trade school opportunities? What options seem to be the options that set you up for the most success?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to dive into that in a bit, but I do think, like you said, 20 years later, and you're thinking, wow, I remember those words. How did I pursue my career? How did that change? Did I really do what I said I was going to do during the high school ceremony, right? And a lot of the times we underestimate what trades and or other non-university or college jobs can actually do for you. And we're going to talk about that later on in the show. But for now, let's go to the jar, and I think we can pick up on some of these fun table topics.
Yeah, let's get calibrated here. Mr.
All right.
Rohi, you're up.
All right. How far is too far to travel for a 1 week vacation? That's a good one. How far is too far? I mean, typically, I don't like to travel outside of California if it's only going to be for a week. I think it takes a couple days to get there and relax, and then you're already packing up if it's only a 1 week vacation. So,
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, for me, I think a week's a kind of a long time. That's a good sized trip. So I think anywhere within the country, including Mexico or Canada, because they're if you're going to New York, you equal distance down south or up north to Canada. So definitely not crossing the Atlantic though.
Yeah.
At that point.
The one thing with the week, a lot of times it is the driving or maybe the flying. That's a whole day in itself, just trying to get prepared for that. So for me, I think it'd be in the outskirts of California, maybe San Diego and as far north as possible. But going out like to a different country, it's hard to get acclimated to, I'm going to be here only for now 5 days or 6 days because one of those days is lost in the travel preparing for all that stuff, right? So I think, just not driving more than 6 hours is good for a week. Anything other than that, I think you require to have more.
Yeah. Let me get one of these.
You want to go out here. There you go.
Okay. And this one says, would you date a person that cheated in every past relationship but promises they won't cheat on you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. They have to bring something to the table other than I'd have to say no. I mean, I think that if you knew that, I mean, what makes you the exception, right? What is it that makes you the exception? If there's already a pattern, then I think I don't know that you'd be the exception unless you bring something to the table that she or he hasn't brought to the table.
yeah. That's a good. I mean, I agree, but everybody needs a second chance, Jose.
This is
Maybe we're the ones.
This is the
I
fifth-
mean, maybe
Fifth chance, man.
Fifth chance.
Yeah, you're better than the rest of them.
That's right.
So I would say so. I mean, obviously, you'd be a little skeptical, but no, I would give that person a chance.
Yeah, there's always going to be some knucklehead out there that says, well, it's just dating, right? I'll date them and not get too serious, right? But when I date, I'm always trying to pursue a long-term relationship. I'm always looking for love. Well, I haven't been looking for love for a long time because I found it, so don't get mad, honey. But if I was dating, that would be my purpose. And for those reasons, that would be a huge red flag. Obviously, there's a history, a pattern, and, it does say every past relationship. So for me, I'm out.
Yeah, there you go. We'll go to one more and we'll dive into the topic, today's topic. Okay. For what reason would you block someone on a social media? I
Well-
think that if I had to block somebody, it's because of the content that they're sharing, maybe something that I'm not comfortable with. But other than that, I mean, I think that's what social media is for. I mean, you have a lot of people expressing themselves, but I think unless the content that, I don't know, maybe personal attacks or something, I don't know, maybe something that wasn't quite what you wanted to hear, the content.
I mean, I look at it. I mean, if somebody wants to follow my life, I don't care who you are. You know, what I mean, I don't got that exciting of a life. I feel so. If they're willing to add me and follow me, whatever. But maybe the only thing is maybe the scammers and spammers.
There
That's
you
the only
go.
thing I always get rid of. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, it is very rare when I block somebody or unfollow them. I don't think I've ever had to block anybody. I'm not that popular to have stalkers or anybody that interested in my life and wreaking havoc on it through social media. But you know, I have unfollowed people just because they bring down my energy. You know, they have me thinking too long on bad things like, I hate you. You know, why are you saying that? Or why are you that uneducated with some of the the points you're trying to make? And you know, some people they get real aggressive and it's very raw, the responses you get. So, you know, politics and religion, all of those very controversial topics, they can be discussed. That you can, you know, I'm more than willing to just, you know, scroll through, and if I agree, I'll like it. If not, I'll just keep scrolling, and I have no problem with that. But it's when you start getting really offensive and unprofessional, or, you know, rude, and that's when it's just like, all right, I gotta go. So yeah, that's my response there.
Well, I mean, I think we all pretty much encountered that. I think we all see the social media. I think anyone in our generational group or even older, anybody that's part of social media certainly sees that. And like you said, there's a lot of raw content out there. Sometimes you want to accept that to your life and sometimes you don't. And you have the choice of blocking those folks.
Yeah.
It's all right. So now it looks like we're back to the topic, you know.
Yeah, you know, and Jose, you brought up the topic, right? Talking about, you know, I think you saw an article. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Break it
for
down a
sure.
little?
You know, every morning when I wake up, I go through my iPhone. Obviously, is it Apple News that comes up there? And the thing that kind of stood out was, hey, is a college degree what we're pursuing? Is it worth it? You know, are we leaving out other important jobs that are out there that also make great money? And those are your trades, right? And specifically, the article talked about iron workers, right? So we're talking about people in trades, whether you're an iron worker, carpenter, you know, mason, cement mason, or whatever. I mean, I see these people through through my business, right? And Abel can attest to this. Being in the mortgage professional, we see a variety of people coming in with different types of income. And one of the things that stands out is when I see people that work in the industry of trades, right? They don't have degrees in college, but yet the income speaks for that, right? The income, because they qualify with incomes that you would think that someone with the college degree would have, but instead, these folks are making anywhere between $30 to $50 an hour, if not more, and that's on average, right? So a lot of these jobs, the generation like the baby boomers are starting to really. They're starting to retire, so they're starting to phase out. So there's a void now for these jobs, and it seems like even in the construction industry, it's hard to find a good pool of laborers that are willing to get out there, and the price for their trade is continuously going up. So that article was very interesting because we do focus a lot on a 4-year degree, we do focus a lot on academia and universities, but yet are we telling our kids, hey, consider something else. Consider this. Go through a different pathway, maybe vocation, maybe trades. And is that really resonating with our kids today? Have we switched that mentality to say you have to go to college, right? And being that I am a first generation, you know, I look at my family and my structure, and for us, I think my father just coming here and making a living was great enough. Having his kids make a living is great enough. But, you know, we were also pushed that college was something good. You know, I can tell you that from my siblings, 2 of them went out to pursue college degrees. And then the other one's, you know, one's a business owner, one's a union work. And I'm in the mortgage professional. And I mean, when you talk about incomes, we're all pretty much there. Some of us may be higher than the others, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a college degree reflects a higher income. That's for sure, and we see it in our industry. So I'm not sure if you'd like to chime in on that.
Yeah, I always tell people, I didn't grow up as a kid. I didn't grow up wearing a mortgage loan officer cape. It wasn't, that wasn't the thing. I'm going to be a loan officer. I'm going to provide financing and help, home ownership all across the world. And I think that's kind of where the idea of college, it resonates with everybody, right? We want everybody to shoot for the moon and the stars. We want everybody to give it their best go at life. You only get one shot at it. Be the doctor, be the lawyer, be the engineer, all which are trades that do require education at a very high level. But what happens when, you're a student and right around your junior, senior year, of high school, I think whether or not you are a good student or not, right? Whether you like working with your hands or you like, you'd prefer to pursue a different type of pathway, right? And I think the issue is we've been so, most people only know the college pathway. Go to college, go to college, go to college. And we force people who aren't good students to go to college, and they waste a lot of time, they waste a lot of money, and they end up not taking advantage of these trade schools. I have family members who went straight into trade schools, and they've started doing really well for themselves really early, But whether you go to a trade school and learn a trade, or you go to college, you still have to have that drive. It's all within that person, because you could very easily end up. I used to have a manager who used to tell me, if you go to school, the people who went to school, they're gaining that experience, right? So when they come up, typically they start at a higher level, right? Otherwise, if you're going to go right into the job and just start working immediately, it's going to take you a lot longer, right? But your experience is valuable, but it might take you 10 years of experience on site to kind of match the same level as somebody that goes to college. But I think those are the kind of conversations that are very important at that junior, senior, and high school level, so that people kind of know, like, look, if you're not a good student, let's recognize that and let's put you on a pathway that's going to set you up for success. And success doesn't always mean that degree. I just wanted to touch on that real quick.
I've seen it. We were talking to somebody that was just coming out of high school and starting their college, and they're going into a profession that, the medical profession, but they were asking her, like, why are you considering that? Why do you, what is it you're looking for? It wasn't like you would think. Like, to me, if somebody says, okay, why are you going to school? It's because I love it. Like, I want to do it. And their answer is because I want a nice car. I want to make a lot of money. So the choice of career was financially based. But when I talk to people, some of them are my employees, some people that I know they're just going to college, like, why are you going to school? Well, because I want this job, because this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Well, do they make a lot of money? I don't know. That's just what they want to do. Right. So it's not, the colleges are really at fault because they're not driving people to financial stability. They're just saying, hey, you want to do this? You pay us money, or you go get a government loan, whatever. You can sit in a classroom and you're going to get that degree. Is there a job at the end of it? Probably not, because not all these degrees you get are really high. They're hiring people by the dozens. They're okay. Maybe there's a few people that'll be a guaranteed job. At the end of the day, it's like, oh well, what's the catch? Oh, you only got a bachelor's. You got to get a master's.
Right.
They get sucked back in. They do the master's. What now? Oh, you need a PhD if you really want to get the job, because no one's hiring with a master's, and they get stuck in that. And then this is the forever students that just. When I talk to them, like, you could have been going and having a job and making money right now. Instead, right. You've just been going to school, either building debt or going nowhere, really. So
yeah, and I think there was a big shift. Don't want to say about a decade or two ago, but there was a big shift in the way we let our students, the curriculum, again, no student left behind or race at the top. And I think that certainly brought educators, or at least folks that drive education, to want to get every student. I think they were tracking a lot of minorities that were not going on to college, and they felt that, hey, let's start a policy that helps everybody get to graduating and then move them on to college, right? Because you wanted to track that these folks also are getting a fair share, if not equal opportunity, moving on to a four-year university or college degree. But we saw that when I served on the school board, we saw that wasn't really, it was failing. And career technical was put aside. I think during that time, I started seeing that career technical was coming back. And I think here in Madera, we've pushed for that, and we've done a better job of creating those career pathways and helping folks early on, as early as, middle school, to start deciding on what they want to do, and they have these career pathways, right? And by the time you get to high school, these high schools are designated, similar to what they do in Europe and in Germany, right? They start these folks in certain pathways, but I mean, that's their labor force. That's why you can have a successful economy, because you have people that actually know the trades or know vocations that actually make the economy, right? Here, you can come to Madera and people look for the labor pool. They have to look that there's people at least interested or have some type of experience in these particular vocations and or trades. So I understood that, hey, not everybody wants to go and pursue a four-year degree. And then when this whole race to the top was happening, one of the things that we noticed is there was a high graduating rate, but that did not transfer over to a high employment rate. So something was wrong there, right? Something was wrong. You had statistics showing that a lot of kids are graduating, but at what proficiency level? And did that guarantee them some type of job moving forward? So a lot of times we see it also in our fields. We see a lot of folks that are getting out of college, some with debt, and trying to qualify for a mortgage makes it difficult because they're just not there after 6-7 years. And there's others that do, that pursue that. I'm not saying don't go to college. I'm just saying keep your options open, because President Biden, with the infrastructure bill, over $1 trillion, is going to create over millions of jobs for the next 10 years. And the majority of those jobs, guess where they're going? They're going in construction to rebuild, again, the infrastructure that's failing. So you're going to have millions of people that can be making tons of money if you're in the right pathway. And right now, I think if folks want to see the future, look into that. Follow the money, and I think the trades is going to be a big deal. I mean, if I get it, that there's a lot of blue-collar folks out there that have really respectable jobs. It's get your jobs out there, get your money up there, so that when you have kids, you give them that option of whether or not they want to pursue a college degree or continue in the trades. But I think it's good to have that option out there early on to decide, hey, I want to make this amount of money, or I want to pursue college and go this way. And I think as parents, we've all been pretty much accustomed to telling our kids, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. I know that's something that we've been pushing on our kids, but at the same time, are we putting a lot of pressure on them? Is that what they want to do? And kind of to your point, I mean, my parents didn't push me to do that. They pushed me to go to school, but they also wanted me to get a job and early on start making some type of money, right? Some type of employment that would help me. And it took me a while, because I pursued the academic deal, and I was there for 3-4 years. To tell you the truth, it was a blur to me. But I mean, landed on this job, and here it is,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think when we talk about like at the high school level, what would you say it was? Level Up, or what was that initiative?
Oh, the race to the top.
Race to the top.
Race to the top. No kid left behind.
I think that there's there's no doubt that a high school degree alone doesn't get you to the next spot, right? It doesn't get you priority when it comes to a job. There's not enough experience, I think, in high school to where you can step in and just say, oh yeah, I'm a rock star now at this. But we are starting to see, and they've been there for probably at least the last 10 years of these career schools within the high school. And I think that gives people or students the ability to get exposure to these different industries. I did one elective, and it was like all about like 1 month we welded, the next month we did wood shop, the next month we were out on the farm driving tractors and everything like that, right? So that one was like, I forgot what it was called, but it exposed you to all these like little different like trades, and And then the idea was if you liked something off of that, then the next semester you would go into whichever one you preferred, right? And that was really neat. I said, well, driving a tractor is fun, but that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So, welding, same thing. I wasn't very good at it. So, it kind of let you try these little things for free, not at the expense of, being an adult and, trying these different jobs. And, oh, by the way, I got bills coming in and everything like that. So I think, especially here in Madera, I mean, I can't speak on every school district, but I know a lot of districts in the Valley have this career school, kind of model, and it's actually, I think really helpful. Now our Madera Robotics, they're big, and you spoke on, industries coming to our area. What's the pool look like, right? Do we have people who are set up to, run machinery and who have the, basic fundamentals to do that? And then, by the way, we'll train you to get to that next level, to translate all that knowledge into what we do specifically. So I guess, I started off saying, a high school degree alone, can't do those things for you. But with these models of career school, I think it does give you a leg up, right? But embrace that. I think people need to embrace that. Parents need to embrace that. If your kid's gravitating towards farming or towards, mechanics or robotics, now it's how do we build from that? How do we, how do we guide you or put you on a path that's going to allow you to do those things and then make a living from it, right? Super important.
So, I mean, I look at it, one of the things, you said robotics, Abel, and that's where my heart is, was a few years back, we had some seniors at the Merced College. They were working on a project. They came down to collaborate with our kids. And it's exactly what you said earlier about, going to school versus jumping into it. You got these guys they're going to be graduating with a degree as engineers, right? Mm-hmm. And they're coming in, they don't know how to use any tools. They don't know how to do anything. And here's my kids, who have barely high school education, but obviously they've been working in the program. They're the ones showing them what to do. You know what I mean? So that's where, like you said, I mean, like experience is really, the schooling was great. It gives you that piece of paper. It gives an employer, some confidence that you know what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't mean anything. It just means you went to a college and paid a bunch of money to learn something that my kids are learning for free. The other thing is, it's not about where people start, it's about the motivation to move up. And I think that's where people have lost it. You can start at the ground up. You can be the janitor, and you can follow that Hollywood story. Then you're the janitor, and you move up, and become manager, and one day you're CEO. But you got to have that drive. Right. And I think that's where college has kind of flipped in the last few years, of people that they don't want to work. So their out is to go to school because they say, well, I really don't want to work a job. I don't really want to do this. Great that there's an opportunity to make a six-figure income. I don't want to do that. So the money isn't the driving force. The fact that, okay, if I go to school, I get funding. I can just go have fun at school and kind of do these fun things and basically extend high school, a couple more years and not have to be, productive in society. Because, I mean, that's the thing is you're dangling, like you said, $100,000 income, more than they're probably going to make with the degree that they're trying to get. They don't want it still. So that's where things have to change. I mean, people have to be hungry again, and they're not. They're not hungry for the money anymore. One of my customers, he works at the corrections. Here's a great paying job too. A little bit of risk, but it doesn't require any schooling, doesn't really require anything but to just show up to the job. They can't find anybody. Yeah. So, it's like, but like you said, it's parents have been trained that if you say, well, I want to be a correctional officer when I come out of high school, no, go to school. Go to school, get an education. Yeah. When right out of the gate, you could be making way more money even with that degree. So,
I think there's especially, I always say, we're here in Madera. And Madera is, to me, has always been a very unique place because it's a place that when you're growing up, when you're in high school, you think this is the worst place on earth. It's boring. There's nothing here. There's nothing to do, right? And you hear that left and right, but it's always this like, now that I'm, have a little bit of time in me and, a little bit more wisdom. And I'm the oldest, by the way, on both sides, my mom and dad's side, the oldest grandchild. And I hear, I've heard cousins and friends and stuff always talk about moving away. I'm going to get out of here, right? And they do. And, 4, 5, 6 years. And then that maturity level starts kicking in. Life, the idea of like, okay, I want to start my life starts kicking in. And they get themselves back to Madera, right? Why? Because it's affordable in comparison to Bay Area, Los Angeles area. And you can live a great life with that 6-figure income that you're talking about, right? You combine that with, a 6-figure income that maybe your spouse is bringing in, and wow, you're probably the top 2%, financially in the entire community, right? And because of that, I unfortunately think it takes longer for people to realize that, right? We're still wearing our Superman capes. We want to be Superman when we're older, right? I think now, but they're probably wearing their Kanye West, Yeezys, right? And they want to be Kanye West. They want to make billions, right? They want to make millions. And it's that old Hollywood dream. It's been going. It's not nothing new. Since the 60s, people have been coming to California to pursue it, right? Let's get on the big screen. Right. And that's kind of the same model, but it's like, man, how do we drive that at an early age to where you're not wasting those years? And we say, hey, man, you could be, starting off at 60, 70 grand in 5, 6 years, you're making your 6 figures now. Yeah. I mean, we have electricians making $45 an hour. And they're not even a journeyman yet, right?
Yeah.
And once they become journeymans, then they get a big increase, and now they're running shifts and they're managing projects, and a lot of those guys after maybe 10 or 15 years, when they're ready to take it easy themselves and not work with their hands so much, but maybe their brain power, they take all that experience, they open up their own company. They get a few apprentices under them, and now they're doing the business end of it, right? Because they've gained that experience, that hands-on, they understand the job in and out, and it all stems from them pursuing this trade and putting the time in, living a great life, up to that, and then life's probably going to get even better because now their name's going to be on the building, right?
And to your point, Abel, I think you're right, is that people try to seek out these other communities where they're competing with everybody else making those 6 figures, But if you have a combination of you and maybe your partner making over 6 figures, then Madera would be the ideal place because, again, you're living a higher quality life in an area that's more affordable. And I think it goes a long ways. Your dollars will stretch a long ways out. And Madera's building. So it's in a building stage right now where essentially you'll get to those areas. And what better way of starting off when you can buy a home here, have the equity by the time you retire. And to your point, what's happening now is we have this large generation of baby boomers kind of phasing out of the workforce. A lot of these folks are in those same trades, whether it's PG&E, Southern California, Pacific, or whatever other industry that's out there. There's a void. There's a big void of employment. And on that article, it stated that over 30 million jobs within $55,000 or more within that trade field. I mean, think about that. There's a lot of money that's out there. And that generation that's phasing out, who's going to supplement that? Who's going to come up and step up? I mean, that's why they're paying such high wages, because it's a shortage of trade people that are out there. So if someone was wanting to decide to get into a career that pays you fast, shoot, I have borrowers in their early 30s looking to pay off their homes in 5 years. That's amazing that you can do that. And the plan that they have, they're very focused. They're not thinking, well, I want to go on and pursue a college degree when they're making over $150,000. They're thinking, shit, I can pay off my house here in 5 years, buy an investment. By the time they're 45, 50, they're looking closer to retirement. Some of us that have college degrees, shit, we can't even go, we're still paying off our student debt. And at times, just it's being very difficult. Now, think about that. I'm not saying this is exactly for every person in trades, but think about that, what that does for you, what that does for your family, for your kids. It gives them a better opportunity to make choices, but they get to see that, hey, shoot, if my parents are living this comfortable life and they're able to make this money with less stress, less debt, then why not? Mm-hmm. I mean, when I say this about education, is not... Education is knowledge is power, and I always encourage anyone that wants to pursue an education in academia and continue to go to university, do it, because it's something that you drive for, something that you that you yearn for, do it, because it's going to help you. It's going to help you get somewhere where you're comfortable. But you can do that also if you're in the trades. You can continue to educate yourself. I see so many people in the trades union just they advocate for it. There's a tiers where you can get up to that, and apprenticeship programs that we wanted to bring here to the schools. I mean, that's exactly. It's another way of saying, hey, welcome to the trades. Let's see where we can get you. And I guarantee you, a lot of those folks right out of high school, they're starting off making some really good money. By the time 5 years comes around, I mean, they're making incredible money, and they're ahead of a lot of your peers that are in the college. But again, not to say that not having education doesn't get you in a better place, because that would be false to say that. I'm just saying, a lot of folks out there that determine early on in their careers or early on in high school that this may not be my path. So what do I have? What are you offering me that I can do? And this is, I think, to our credibility, is that we can offer that to a lot of the young students that are here. Like you said, whether it's in an electrician, a mason, something in the trades, you can get an early start. And by the time 10 years comes around, you're pretty well established.
You know, I just I'm going to ask a question, but it's coming from the idea, you know, kind of like I mentioned, and I'm really thinking about like the people that I know. I'm speaking obviously from experiences, where it's like, how do you get a young person to understand the value of the value of a dollar, right? And not so much just the value of a dollar, but you know how difficult it is to earn that dollar, right? And how far that can go, or how not so far that can go, right? And then the reality of what your career is going to look like. And again, I think I always go back. Everybody, you know, in high school, everybody wants to be they want to make the sport. They want to make the NFL. They want to make the NBA. They want to be a pro something so they can make the millions, right? They want to go to Hollywood and make the big screen. They want to do all these things that are probably unrealistic, right? What's the fallback plan and what's the expectation? And that's one of those borderlines where we're like, well, but those are our kids. You know, we want them to dream big and we want them to pursue, and, you know, they do only have one chance. And, you know, the reality is, though, many of these students don't have the support system to go to school and not have to worry about rent and everything like that, right? They don't have the ability to go out and audition for a whole 2 years for every role out there, and being, you know, fed by mom and dad and supported by them, right? So at some point they gotta get dirty, right? And at some point reality comes and hits you and says, this is the reality of life, right? So mom and dad's life, you know, you said, hey man, mom and dad live pretty comfortable. That realization doesn't usually come till later in life, right? When you're in your mid-20s and you're considering again, you know, settling down yourself. So should that be a conversation, financial conversations? You know, should parents be more transparent with their kids? Hey, this is how we make our money. This is how much we make, and this is the type of life we're able to afford. This is how we did some of those things, and I think that. Although it might sound like a good idea to do that with your kids, I don't think sometimes we do, because we don't want them to worry about that. You know, I remember being a kid and my dad's pay stub was on the table, right? And I went to go grab it. My mom said, "Don't be nosy," you know, and pulled it away, right? So those aren't conversations that everybody's having, right? Though finances are personal. Jose and I know within the industry, sometimes family members won't come to us for financing because they don't want us to see what they're earning and things like that, right? But should you have those conversations with your children, be transparent, and does that help them when they're, you know, kind of get a baseline of like, okay, well, if I want this, then that's, you know, I probably have to do what dad did or mom did, right? Or I'm going to have to at least be here. Or if I want more, well, then I need to go get more, right? And I need to do more. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that if you're not having those conversations, someone is. And that could be the school, social media, or it can be the media in general. And a lot of times you talk about it, going to Hollywood, right? But people don't see what the odds are. So that's where the math comes in. One out of how many thousands really make it out there? How many people come out and try to pursue that? Same thing with any other specific job that may be that's tight, right? As far as the labor pool goes, you know. But if you really want something, I think you can pursue it. And there's those that do have that drive to do it. But at the end of the day, like you said, do our civic class and economics class teach the kids, hey, this is what a dollar's worth, and this is how you can gain, this is how you can make, or do you see more of a push of being a consumer type society? You know, because if that's what we are, then you know you're going to continue to push for these kids to continue to be just great consumers. Great consumers, and it's a cycle. We see that every day when we pull credit. We see it, not anyone specifically, but it's very common for people to carry on loads of debt, and that's a push from, I think, our society in general, and I think with education, it doesn't really teach them to understand the financing part of it. You know, how do you get out there in the world? How do you get ahead? How do you build wealth? And that's very important. That's one thing that I do. I would like to incorporate into our school systems. Not that there isn't anything happening now, but really teach them how wealth is, because wealth can be generational. And unless you really know, then you're really regressing. And if your parents did well, like you said, your parents did well, and you, whoa, my parents make this much. But yet, I mean, we always have that push to try to make more than them. Well, you don't have to. I mean, if your parents are laying the foundation for you, they're going to help you get to the next level. But understanding that value of dollar and the value of wealth, I think it's very important. And I think a lot of the kids today, especially from what I hear, is that they have no clue of what's going on out there. And they learn this later on in their lives, maybe a little too late. But I think it should be done early on. You know, you can accumulate wealth, even with the trade. You have equity and assets that you can certainly transfer over to your family. It doesn't have to be where I have to go to school, get myself in debt, and then all of a sudden my kids are in debt. And it's a generational thing, right? Understand the value of the dollar, but understand more importantly how to build generational wealth. I think that's huge. And I think there's got to be some financial advice incorporated into our education. And from what I understand, it seems like there is. I don't know if it's done late in their years of high school, like maybe your senior or junior year, but I think it should be incorporated early on. If you're not having that conversation, Abel, or you, Rohi, or myself, then we can't blame our system. It's our responsibility as parents to also teach our kids that, hey, here's how you can accumulate that. Here's how you can do it, whether you go through the academia channel or you go through the trades channel.
No, I mean, and like you said, somebody's going to teach it. And I don't know if you get the articles like I do, but I feel like every week there's an article about the side hustle, you know. And I feel like we're talking about what you do for your day to day, but now the world's already moved on to what you do on the side.
Yeah.
All the big money you make doing even less work, and it's a catch because I mean during COVID especially, like a lot of side hustles came up. You had like all the Grubhub and all these things of like, you know, DoorDash. I had a lot of employees that would quit because they were going to go do these jobs. And it was like, you know, because the enticement of like, oh man, like these side hustles, you don't have to, you know, you just make money. There's these pockets, you do this little work and you know, you make all this money, but they didn't find out that you're working like 60-hour work weeks, you know, like, and you're making about the same amount of money you would have just working a traditional job.
Yeah.
But the catch is not that in those articles. I mean, I read them because the catch is always like make $20,000 a month, and all I work is 6 hours, a week, and it's like, how are you doing that? Oh, because you got into a niche, you found something gimmicky, you made it, and then you told everybody, and everybody jumps in it, and now you're not making anything. Yeah. You're on to the next thing, and it's why I say that it's again, look at all these new things coming up, like the e-gamers. You know, we were watching a documentary on e-gamers and talking about how even the high school has an e-gamer team. Is that something that we should promote and say like, hey, my kid's really good at playing games. He can make a lot of money playing video games. You know, YouTube. My kids, they're not even, you know, they're young and they already want to have YouTube channel. They want to, you know, do you encourage that and say, well, hey, maybe they could be financially stable, or do you look at it like the movie industry and say, yeah, you're one of a million people. You know, you're going to spend all this time and money and work again, 80-hour work week to maybe make something, maybe. You know,
maybe somebody finds you.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
And that's a maybe.
Right? You look at like these kids, like Ryan. I don't know if you ever watched the Ryan's World kid. You know, like, I mean, like you're talking about a kid who's worth millions and millions, but he's the one kid out of everybody else that had the same or similar channels. You know, so do you use that as a model and say, hey, you want to be the next Ryan, or do you just say do it for fun? You know, stay in school. I mean, it's hard to drive your kids to not force them and pigeonhole them and say, this is what you're going to do. Yeah. You know, you want to give them that breadth, but do you drive it financially? Do you say like, oh, you don't want to do that job? It only makes $50,000 a year. you want to do this job because it makes 100,000, but this one you're not going to be happy doing, and the other one you're going to be happy.
Well, and I think that's where the transparency on like, well, what type of lifestyle do you want? You know, do you want to live like grandma and grandpa?
Well, what's happiness? We did a video on that. Is it the money that's
yeah,
happiness?
yeah.
or-
What exactly? You know, do you want to live with like grandma and grandpa? Smaller house, much smaller house. But look at they're surrounded by their family all the time. All of those things. You want that life? Always barbecuing on the weekends, right? They don't, they make time for trips, maybe a couple times a year, but they're to the Laughlin. They're not going to the Bahamas or anything like that, right? But they enjoy themselves, and every week they have enough money in their pocket to buy more beer and barbecue and have everybody over, right?
Yeah.
And that could be looked at great, right? If that's your life, this is that $50,000 a job for you and your spouse. That's gonna work. That'll work for you. That if that's how humble you want to live. But if you want to elevate, right? If you're looking for for this type of lifestyle, like your uncle over there, look at he has the boat and this and that, and and it's not all on credit. It's paid off, things like that, right? He's doing really well. But I think those are those transparent conversations that need to happen, right? The YouTube stuff I can relate because my kids are like that too, and you said something earlier, Rohi, and was like, you have some of your clients that are like not really looking at the money anymore when they're looking to make a career change, and it's really just like they probably find themselves in a position where they're pursuing passion now, right? And I think sometimes like with the YouTube stuff, it's like the odds are against you. Like Jose was saying, the odds one maybe out of every 25,000 are going to make it, right? But it's like the idea still as parents, I think we support those initiatives because we're like, if this is something you really want to do, we want you to do something, choose a career that is going to make you happy, that you do want to do, right? And now that money, the opportunity is there, but at some point we got to say, well, what's our backup plan though, right? If this doesn't kick off and you don't have thousands of subscribers like the Weekly Jargon does, then, what are you going to do now, right? So good stuff though.
Yes, it was. And I just want to highlight on one thing because you brought up a really good point, Rohi, and it's the side hustle. And I think that a lot of young kids, or at least even generations like mine or older, they're always looking to make that quick buck. But the one thing that we fail to realize, because we all fall victims to this, is that whenever there's that side hustle on YouTube or on TikTok, do you want to make millions of dollars? That's just they're triggering something within us that because we all have that in there. How? But it always comes down to this: buy this program and buy this book. Do this
That's
and
their
do
side
that.
hustle. That's how they make their money.
And it's funny because it's gone on for centuries. There's salesmen that do this particular same tactic over and over and over, and it continues. We continue to fall prey to that because we want to get out of what we're doing today. We want to be able to get that yacht. But I mean, think about it. How do those people get there? Either through some type of Ponzi scheme, or they worked hard and built that wealth to be able to get there. And essentially, you have to kind of dig deep and say, how do I get there? And drive a path to get there. It isn't going to happen like this. And I'll say that there are some folks that have done it in that fashion. And then, like you said, they try to sell that pattern or that technique. Everybody knows how to do it. Then if everybody knows how to do it, then who the hell's falling? Somebody's got to fall victim to that, right? You have to sell that to someone.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Social media just sells on a lot of different things. But I think that if you have a true, honest, dedicated career, whether it's in the vocations or trades, I think you can certainly build on that. And it doesn't happen overnight. A lot of this, like I said before, it's generational wealth. It happens out here. And build. Lay out the foundation for future generations so that you and your family can be, and maybe someday get that yacht, right? I mean, but if I'm thinking that I'm going to get that yacht tomorrow, then I'm going to do everything I can to follow what I see on social media. And sometimes you'll have to fail. Maybe you make it, but what are the odds of you making it, right?
I think it's all about the person, the individual, and if they work their tail off, something else starts happening. You start realizing, I don't need that yacht. I don't want that yacht. I worked too hard for that yacht. It's just going to sit out there. I don't have time for that yacht, but what I can use is something else, right? And so those kind of, you shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars, right? That whole concept, and I think that's true in that case, right? You have to have goals, you have to have your vision board, throw the yacht up there if that's what's going to drive you, but ultimately it's the drive that gets you there. It's not just going to happen unless you buy a lotto ticket.
The generational thing, I think, is where some of that falls apart too. I mean, you don't want to do too well. I mean, let's say you do real well, Jose, and you retire at 25. You have your family and you have kids. The kids, come up. I don't see dad working at all. I want to have that job, And then you're like trying to tell them, well, no, you need to go do this. No, I'm just gonna live off of you.
I'm gonna be a trust fund baby.
Yeah, and it's like so you got to have that struggle that they see to kind of motivate them to want to do better. But at the same time, as parents, you're always trying to work real hard so they don't have to work as hard. It's that constant battle.
And it is a catch-22 because although you may have started the foundation of working hard, studies have shown that after the third, fourth generation, especially when they inherit a large sums of money or wealth, that starts really diluting or phasing out.
Yeah.
And it's because they don't have that appreciation anymore. They lost that motivation to want to go out there and pursue. Now, obviously, we'd have to talk about another show. One thing I do want to leave, because we are talking about these trades, is that if you're a parent looking at this show, I mean, obviously, I would assume that you would be a parent or even a kid. I would say follow the money. For the next 10 years, we have an infrastructure bill that's going to provide millions and millions of jobs in these industries that can certainly put you in a very good position, whether you want to buy a house or whether you want to build generational wealth. Follow the money. I mean, obviously, if the medical field was pursuing for nurses, that's going to be filled some way or another. But here you have this policy, this initiative saying, hey, we need to build on the infrastructure. Trillions of dollars are being poured into this. So that means there's going to be a lot of money out there. Start looking into those career pathways.
Yeah. Rob, the robotics team is a good
yes,
option for some of these
that's
kids,
a great. Yes, it is. And let me just finish by saying, bro, he's an advisor to the robotics. When they won that world championship, I mean, we got to give this guy
ranked number one in the world.
In the
Good
world,
effort.
team effort. But yes, but you were part of that team, and obviously that says a lot about our community.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a company, corporation, engineering firm that would like to move to Madera, reach out to City Councilman Jose Rodriguez.
Yes, and then
if you have a child that wants to join the robotics, reach out to Rohi. Is that correct?
And if you have any loans, reach out to our expert here.
Financial advice.
Correct.
Gonna
That's
throw in
right.
our plug. But the most important plug out of all of that is, of course, here at the Weekly Jargon, we want you to subscribe, we want you to like, and we want you to share, and we want you to comment. We got to have your feedback. That's super important so that we know that we are pulling on the right strings there and really driving some messages that you care about. And you are our viewers, so we do care about what you think. All right, gentlemen, that's it. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week.